B5. Well, really, it starts 49B4 at the end of the page. The Mishnah stated that the same way, what you do during the weekdays, the drawing of the water, the amount of water that you pour on the mizbeach, the thing, how you deal with the water on the Nisach HaMayim on Sukkot, you also the mitzvah of pouring the water on the mizbeach applies to Shabbat as well, except on Shabbat, one of the things that was different, the Mishnah states, is that when you have to fill up the water on Friday afternoon, you cannot fill up the water on Shabbat, early Shabbat morning, because the water that they were filling up from was from a fountain, a mayan, that was outside of Jerusalem. It'll be a problem of carrying on Shabbat. There's no Erev to carry from outside Jerusalem to Jerusalem, and therefore they had to bring the water before Shabbat. So they brought the water on Friday. And when they brought the water on Friday, they left it until Saturday morning. So it stayed overnight. The water stayed overnight till Saturday morning. Okay. But the Gemara says something else. When they filled up the water, they used a golden barrel to fill up the water, show honor, but they made sure to use it from a utensil that was not consecrated, a utensil that was not holy. That was the utensil that they used, a eno mukudeshet, like the language of marriage, hariyat mukudeshet, that you are betrothed to me, a language of holiness, of kedusha. Like one opinion is you're forbidden to the rest of the world like hegdesh. One's wife is forbidden to the rest of the world like hegdesh. Hegdesh is forbidden; it's holy, except you're only permitted to the husband. So mukudeshet means something that sanctifies, something that's holy. Yeah. And maybe another idea why marriage is called kiddushin. It's supposed to be a holy act. Marriage, we're not animals. We're supposed to act like human beings in a marriage. And how do you like that, David? Kiddushin. Now, so the Mishnah states that you made sure to use a utensil that was not holy. In the days of Moshe Rabbeinu, he made what was the glue? What was the battery to make the utensil holy? Was pouring there was certain anointing oil that he poured on to make them holy. For the future generations, welcome back to Simon. Look who's here. We got an old star's back. Good to see Simon is back.
Hey.
Well, welcome back, Simon. Simon, you got to see the smile on Ralph Vitesh's face by hearing that you're back.
There we go.
He's here. Okay. Baruch Hashem. Ralph his face is on the screen. Mark is acting very modest in a very hidden way. We're talking about hidden tzaddikim. Right? Ralph is also hidden, but if people do different styles in service of Hashem. Oh, we got a beautiful smile from Mark also. Okay, so you got a smile from Mark also, Simon.
Now welcome back.
Okay, beautiful. Bruchim habayim. So we're on Memtet on the base, 49b on the bottom of the page. So, but since the Mishkan or post Moshe Rabbeinu's time, the utensils became holy by using them with the intention of using them to sanctify them. The use sanctified them. Amen. But they made sure to use a utensil that was never used before, that was never sanctified, in order to draw the water. The Gemara asked the question, why when you drawing the water, Simon, we're talking about drawing the water for the Simchat Beit HaShoeva, the water libation that was poured on the altar during the days of Sukkot. Why do you need to fill the water on Friday for the Shabbat libation, for the Shabbat pouring on the Mizbeach? Why do you need to fill it with a utensil that was not holy? Why can't you use a holy utensil? What's the problem by using a utensil that was already consecrated, that was already had a status of holiness? So Rashi fills in some of the blank. What's behind the Gemara's question? Why? Because Rashi, the obvious question is, there's something called, if you have something that's sanctified and you put something in it, it stays overnight. So the item that goes in it, that goes into that sanctified utensil, gets the holiness of that utensil. And if it gets the holiness of that utensil, if it's holy and it stays overnight, it invalidates the item. So the question is, so what's the Gemara's question? Why don't you use a consecrated utensil? If it's a holy utensil,
Even if they cover it, Rabbi?
even if they cover it, right, that's going to be a different issue. We're going to see about covering it. We have to worry about the snake. But even if you cover it, the water that's left overnight in a holy utensil, an item that's left in a holy utensil overnight, if the item that's left in it is become usually the item that left in it receives the holiness, the status of the item of the holy utensil, and it would invalidate it. It's called the psul lina. It's called the invalidation of lina. Lina is stay overnight. You know, Abraham had a tent. It was called the Eshel Abraham, right? He built a tree. What did Eshel stand for? Achila, Piyah, and Lina. Oh wow, look at it. Mark got a set of, someone bought this set of books for you. How do you like that, Mark? You got a gift. You got a gift today. Today's your lucky day. Every day's your lucky day. You got a gift. Okay, look at that. It's really for you, of course. What do you think it's there for? Okay, we'll have to talk about it after the class. Okay. Okay, very good. Simon, what's going on here is that David just bought to Mark a set of the Hilchot Shabbat Svarim books from Vad Yosef. Wow. See that? See, it says mitzvah, go there, mitzvah. One mitzvah causes another mitzvah. You come to the Torah class, so now you go ahead and you buy a sefer for somebody else. What's next? Only good things. Only good things. Only thing. Okay. So Rashi fills in the blank. What's the blank? The blank. What's the Gemara's question? Why should you use an unconsecrated utensil? If it's a consecrated utensil, the water will become invalid. Morning. The water will become invalid because it stayed in the utensil overnight. So what's the Gemara's question? Morris, welcome, Morris. Just to bring you up to date, the Gemara says on Friday they would fill up the water outside Yerushalayim in a vessel that was not consecrated, not a holy vessel, and leave it till Shabbat morning, and then Shabbat morning they would pour it on the mizbeach, on the altar. But why? The Gemara says why should you use an unconsecrated vessel? Use a holy vessel. But what do you mean? If you use a holy vessel, the water that stays in holy vessel overnight becomes pasul, becomes invalid for staying overnight. Like we said, the word achila shtia lina, right? Eshel Abraham, he had a tent where he provided food, provided drink, and he provided lodging. Lina is this place to stay. You have a place lalun to stay overnight, so it should be invalid if it stays overnight. So Rashi explains that it won't become invalid. Why won't it become invalid? The Gemara is thinking at this point that in order for it to become the item that you place in the utensil, even if it's a holy utensil, for it to become the status of that utensil of holiness is only if your mindset, the Gemara was thinking, if you had a mind that the utensil that you put, the holy utensil should sanctify, should give holiness to this item that's inside. But if you do not have in mind that intention, it will not give it holiness. It has to have like kavanah. Like you have the concept of a mitzvah needs kavanah. If you have in mind which way? No, right. Tumah, right. Tumah does not need intention. If somebody comes in contact with something that's contaminated, will contaminate. But to make something holy, when you want to make holy, right. The problem is the Gemara is thinking at least this way: to consecrate something, to consecrate the item that goes in a holy vessel, you need intention to make that item inside holy. And maybe we could say apimusad. You know, sometimes if you touch something holy, even if you're not intending to become holy, you become holy. But even That's the other side of the coin. You don't need intention. Just hang out in the right place and you become holy. But or the other thing is, if you have, there's a certain amount of, let's say, the liquid that you need to put into that you have to pour on the mizbeach. So if you take a holy utensil and you put into the holy utensil exactly what's needed for that utensil, then the utensil could consecrate the item that's needed. But if you put into the utensil more than what's needed, so it's not a fit, it's not the right fit. If you put in more than the right fit, an amount that's not the right amount, so then it would not have the magic of making holy the item that's inside, because it's like it doesn't fit, because you have something in there that's not appropriate. You have more than what you're supposed to be doing. So the Gemara is thinking on two ends, two reasons why it should not consecrate it. Either use a holy utensil, but have in mind it should not consecrate it. I have in mind I don't want the water to become the level of holiness of the utensil. And therefore, subsequently, if it's not holy, the water, so it stays overnight, stays overnight, it's not, doesn't invalidate it. Or fill it up with more than what's needed for the utensil, more than what you need, and therefore the utensil, since it's not serving what needs to serve, but it's more than what's needed, it will not consecrate it. Those are the two possibilities the Gemara is suggesting why you should use a consecrated utensil. The Gemara responds, Amar Ze'iri. So Ze'iri holds Ksava. The Tana of our Mishnah holds Ein Shir L'mayim. You could pour as much water, maybe there's a certain amount, maybe it has to be either a minimum amount. But once you go above the minimum, you can pour as much water. So it's not called, it's not fit for the utensil. If you put in more, let's say you need 3 lugim. Right. So so the idea is if I have a holy utensil, right? And let's say you don't need intention to sanctify the item. You put an item in a holy utensil, it becomes holy. But that only would work if the item fits. It makes sense to be there. Fits. That means, let's say you put in you're using you put a certain amount, a size in that item that's what's needed. But if you put in that item more than what's needed, something that's not supposed to be, let's say that's the utensil, and let's say I'm supposed to put 3 ounces, I need to use 3 ounces, and I put in 4 ounces into the utensil, so that means that is not what's appropriate for. That's not the amount that's needed for the service. Right, the cup could I up 8 ounces, but if I'm only allowed to use 3 ounces for this service, and I put in 5 ounces to the utensil, so therefore it's not the right fit. It's like I'm wearing the wrong. It's not the right size. You're wearing the right size. It's not called you're not wearing a suit. It's not you're not dressed properly. If you're not dressed properly, it's not going to consecrate what's the contents of what's in that item. So in order for the cup, which is a 10-ounce cup, to consecrate the 3 ounces, if you're only allowed to use 3 ounces, you have to put 3 ounces into that cup, and then it's a fit. If it's more than 3 ounces, if that's not able, it's not a good fit. Regardless of your intention. That's what the Gemara responds. Ksava, he holds Ein Shir L'mayim. He holds that it doesn't make a difference. You could go put as much water on the mizbeach as you want, and therefore you could go over the top. So whatever you put it after a certain size, it all fits. It's one size fits all. So it's connected. If you have 3 ounces, they need it right. The 3 lugim, which is, let's say, around about 36. Right, and but if you say it again.
Right. Then your intention is probably not right. No, that's the first.
It could be intention not right. Right. But it could be. Right, it could be intention not right. And even if your intention is right, you're out of business. And it's fine. It works. It works because you're allowed to use it. But the Gemara says, and the Gemara says, and this opinion, the Mishnah holds that you don't need attention. So it holds both points, and therefore, since right, and therefore, if that's the case, now you know why you have to use a utensil that's not holy. Because if you use a holy utensil to get the water into, it would consecrate the contents of that utensil, because you don't need intention to consecrate the item that's inside. 22nd opinion, and you don't. The barrel that you're picking up the water cannot be consecrated before, cannot be used in the. Then the water will become consecrated, and then subsequently it will become invalid by staying overnight. And therefore, we want to use this water tomorrow to pour on the mizbeach. If it's not consecrated on Friday, put it on Friday, no problem. It can stay overnight, but it doesn't have holiness to water. And your holiness of the water, your holiness is that in the morning, it would be, or you have in mind in the morning to use it. Once you have in mind in the morning, let's say your intention is, I don't want to consecrate it until the morning. So either the intention is that I have in mind that it should become consecrated in the morning. My intention is, I had an intention, I don't want it tomorrow. Right. Therefore, it's consecrated, and I'll pour it on the mizbeach. That's
Rabbi.
Stick with that. It's that approach.
Rabbi,
Yes.
when you say have in mind, you actually have to say it, or you're just going to keep it in your mind?
That's a good question. That's a good question. That would have to be looked up. That's a good question. Yeah, but there might be certain times certain things you might have to actually say. I mean, if I want to, certain times if I want to make an animal for hegdish, I can't just have in mind. I want to say this animal is holy. The question is, that's Ralph's question. How far do we have to go with that intention? Do I have to say I want the water to be consecrated tomorrow, or do I just have to just have in mind? Okay, so the Gemara says. The Emite, that's now we're on Nunam and Aleph, moving along, 58. The Emite Mukadeshet, and if you would bring it in a utensil that's sanctified beforehand, if Sululu Belina, it will become invalid by staying over night. So therefore, we got to use the utensil that's not consecrated. Cheskia offers a different approach. He says, he disagrees. He says, no proof that the Mishnah holds that something can be consecrated without intention. Really, you need to have intent in order for it to become consecrated. But so what's the problem? So use a utensil that's holy, a barrel that's holy to draw the water. But have in mind that I don't want the water to become consecrated till tomorrow. But the fact that you have that in mind, people who see you don't know that. They see you went with a ministering utensil, a kli sharet, a holy consecrated utensil. They don't know what's on your mind. They think that what happened was that you had in mind to consecrate the water. And they think that the water was holy, and yet you left it overnight. And they're going to think that you could go ahead and use water items that are consecrated, and even though they stay overnight, they're going to think there's no invalidation of staying overnight for consecrated stuff. Lina is staying overnight, so they're going to make a mistake. So if you leave it overnight and it was holy, it would become invalid because of Lina staying overnight. Torah does. The consecrated stuff, the holy stuff that stays overnight, and not because of the snake issue, not because someone drank from it, but because just being overnight is there's an idea most probably also, like we have those Sasira Menad Bokeh in this week's Pashas. Don't leave over to the morning. There's this concept, maybe there's a deeper sense of something staying overnight. You can't delay life. You can't holiness gotta be, you want to be holy. The way to act holy is you don't wait till tomorrow. You don't leave it tomorrow. Okay, that's meaning experience the darkness also. Like when we go to sleep at night, there's an experience of that. Right. Right. So the Gemara says that's what we're afraid of. We're afraid of for the onlooker. The onlooker, David, he's going to see you use the holy vessel. You drew the water on Friday. He's going to think that this is holy water because you use the consecrated vessel. They didn't know that you had in mind not to consecrate it. So therefore, as a result of that, the Mishnah uses precaution. It says, don't use a holy vessel. If you don't use a holy vessel, you avoid the onlook of people making mistakes by seeing what you do. A lot of people draw conclusions when they see what you do and they think it's A, B, and C, but really there's something else going on. There was some sort of mindset that affected. They don't know that. Amar Rav Yanai, Amar Rav Zera. Rav Yanai says in the name of Rav Zera, he says the following. Afilu tema yeshir l'may. Maybe the Mishnah holds that there's a specific size. You cannot use more than a certain size. And maybe the Mishnah holds the klisharet imikasha elamidat. You have to have mindset. If you have a mind not to consecrate it, it will not become holy. So if that's the case, so what's the problem over here? You could fill up more than what's needed. So if you fill up more than what's needed, it will not become consecrated if you hold it at a certain size. And also, the other possibility is even if you fill up what's needed, but you have to have intent in order to become holy. So what's the problem? So why use a utensil that was not consecrated? Use a utensil that's consecrated, and you have two options. Either have a mind that shouldn't consecrate the item that's inside, or fill it up with more than what's needed. Fill it up to the top. So the Gemara says, meaning if you want, meaning let's say, right, but according to this opinion that holds, he wants to suggest now in the Gemara that there's a specific size of water. And if you do more than that, it's no good. So if it's more than that, it's no good. So why don't you just fill it higher? And therefore, it will not bring holiness on the content. It won't be holy on the content, and therefore, if it stay overnight, it would not be a problem. In the morning, then you just maybe reduce the amount. I presume you reduce the amount, get the right, or pour it into a different vessel with the right amount. So the Gemara says, why don't you use a holy vessel to begin with, and there's no problem. Because why? Both could be holy. Right, but the Gemara's question is, why in the beginning should you use a vessel that's not consecrated? Why do you got to go out of your way, and I got to fill up the water from the spring with unholy vessels? The Gemara says, you mean we're telling you as if there's a problem. You can't use holy vessels. Why not? The Gemara says, fill up with a holy vessel. Invalidate only if it's whole, only if the item.
Vessel, let it both be unholy. Bring it to the
Based on Mikdash.
The morning, take it from the unholy vessel and fill the exact
Right.
3 portions into a holy vessel.
Right. Right. But the question is, you just told me a way to do it. You told me a way to do it not unholy. Fill up originally with a not holy vessel, correct? Right. Right. But the Gemara's question is, why do you have to go out of your way? If you could do it at home. Okay, but I'm saying we're in the Beit HaMikdash. Most probably, I presume, behind the Gemara's question, it's much more better, honorable to use a holy vessel. You know, we're dealing with the Beit HaMikdash. We're dealing with things that have to do with the Mikdash. Why do we have to go out of our way to use something that's not holy? If we have the opportunity, if we have an opportunity to do holy, let's use holy. The only problem is because you're worried about staying overnight. But this Gemara is saying, this opinion is saying there wouldn't be a problem. It wouldn't invalidate it. Why? Because this opinion is saying, really, if you have too much in the vessel, more than what's needed, it will not have the holiness of the item that goes in that holy vessel will not become holy like the vessel, and therefore it will not become invalidated by staying overnight. So the strength of the Gemara's question is, use a holy vessel, put the water in Friday afternoon, let it stay overnight, and it will not invalidate it. Why not? Because this opinion holds that if you put more, it'll draw a larger amount, and you're fine. It will not go. What? Or this opinion, have in mind, I don't want it to consecrate it. Exactly. So what's the issue? The Gemara says it's a different issue. Again, what people are going to say. What's the concern? Right here, the onlook is for something else. What's the onlooker's issue over here? The Gemara says, he says a different approach. Zera Shemra Yomru. Right. They don't know what your mindset was. I didn't have a mind. So the Gemara says, but you know what? But according to this opinion that says, but if you hold, but it could be you could see there's more water. Meaning, if you hold, you have to have a specific size in order for it to become holy, specific size of water. And if this opinion holds, you could put more water. This opinion says, so why don't you just put more water? Everybody sees you filled it up. So everybody will know it's not, no one's going to make a mistake. Everyone's going to know it's not consecrated. But the Gemara says it's a different problem. Even if you put more water, and everybody's going to see you put more water in it, and if you put more water, it will not consecrate it. But the Gemara says, you know what the problem is? Shemra yomru lekidush yadayim v'raglayim alav. People will think, you know why you filled it up? You filled it up for the Kohen Gadol. The Kohen Gadol to wash his hands and his feet, and the water that you use, Rashi says that you use for the Kohen Gadol to wash his hands and his feet has to be water that's holy. And they also would use, when they would get the water for the Kohen Gadol, they also would use a golden vessel to fill up the water for the Kohen Gadol to wash his hands and his what? And his feet. And therefore, people would say that he filled up this thing for the Kohen Gadol, for his hands and his feet. And therefore, then the people will go ahead and therefore it had holiness. And then when they see that you're pouring, you're pouring it on the, then they see you poured it on the mizbeach. They see you used it on the mizbeach. You had leftover water or something, or you filled it up for the Kohen Gadol, and then you changed your mind and using it to pour on the mizbeach. And what will people come to think? People come to think that even though things became holy, the water became holy because it was filled up for the Kohen Gadol and a proper utensil that will make the water holy, and they will say that staying overnight does not invalidate and make the same mistake. They're going to say it's not invalidated. What? Say it again. It would invalidate it, but the people, if they see you use it, if they use it, but if they, what did you say, David? Right, because the Gemara wanted to suggest fill it up with more water, and people will know, and it's not consecrated. The item is not, the content is not holy. So the Gemara says people will think it is holy. Why? Because they will think that you filled it up for what? For the Kohen Gadol. Not think that is. They'll think it is holy water.
It's not invalidated, so
they'll think that holy items that stayed overnight don't become invalidated. The thing is, okay, they'll think life being holy and staying over and delaying is a good idea. Not a good idea. Today, Hayom. That's how we got to make moves. You'll see in Megillat Ruth. In Megillat Ruth, it's going to say that an amazing story over there with Boaz and Naomi, right? Everyone knows the story in Megillat Ruth. But there's one pasuk over there that really moved me a lot. Hopefully more than one pasuk, but one specific pasuk lesson that said, what does it say over there? Naomi tells Ruth, ask Boaz to marry you. And what happens? Boaz, so Ruth goes to Boaz, but Boaz says there's a relative closer, and therefore he has to get first opportunity. And so Ruth comes home, he tells Naomi what happened. The Boaz says he has to first ask the other relative. she says, Naomi says the following. Boaz, he's not going to rest today until he finishes the job today. Meaning he's not going to let things go. It's not going to be tomorrow he's going to take care of it. Look at the language of the Pasuk. He's going to take care of it today. Great people take care of things today. They don't procrastinate. It's not about tomorrow. I once saw Rav Ovadia Yosef. Someone needed an apartment. He would call, the minister of whatever, and he would say, today. It was about today. It wasn't about tomorrow. That's how great people are. Okay. Nishbacha onusgalta. The Mishnah stated, if the water became the water that you wanted to use for pouring on the mizbeach, if the water became uncovered, let's say you put it away on Friday, but somehow the water became uncovered, that's your issue. The Mishnah stated you can't use that water because maybe a snake drank from that water. Good morning, Professor. Right, whatever right. Let's say right, has to be covered. Exactly. You use a utensil that's not holy, but it's the contents is not consecrated. But nevertheless, you have to make sure it's covered. The water has to be covered because what's the problem? Because maybe a snake drank from the water. So the Gemara says, so what's the problem? If the snake drank from the water, so why don't you go ahead and use a sieve to, get rid of, put the good water will go through the sieve, clear it, filter it, and the venom of the snake, the Gemara understands that the venom will stay above, and therefore, so that's what the Gemara is going to conclude at the end. But the Gemara in this point is saying, you could go ahead and get rid of the venom, and therefore, what's the problem? And then when you pour on the mizbeach, you're going to pour on the mizbeach water that has no venom in it. Right, so you're saying, therefore, it's definitely not respectful. Right. So there was a different approach that the Gemara was, of what the Gemara was thinking. What did you say? Right. Right. Vamai, the Gemara says, why don't you remove it with a mesanenet? Why don't you use it with a strain? And the Gemara says, so we'll see more next week to conclude this piece. But I think on Sunday we said that Sunday is the Yortzeit of Daniel Safdie. That was his spot over here. And Rabbi Fari had an idea. Rabbi Fari speak to you about the idea? Yeah, for Sunday. All right, all Sunday morning classes, but also it's going to be dedicated in memory of Daniel Safdie. But we're going to have maybe an 8 o'clock. Did he talk to you about that or not yet? But have an 8 o'clock class Sunday morning. Would that work right over here? The room is available, right? Yes, 8 o'clock. We're going to have a special class. What? Yeah, Sunday now. I'm not doing Zoom on Sunday, but it would be live class here. Okay, in memory of Mr. Safdie. 8 o'clock in the morning. Okay, have a great day, and then we'll have
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi.
You too. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Right. The kior is the laver that we had in the courtyard, which the Kohanim would use to wash their hands and feet with. It had water in it.
Outside.
Right, so right, there was obviously something special that they wanted to use that water from that spring. Right. Okay. Have a great day. Have a great Shabbat.